Lead generation is finding those people who need what we provide. So the mistake that a lot of newer agents make, especially, and even some experienced agents will make, is they put marketing before prospecting. And I don't know, are any of you, have any of you come from marketing backgrounds where that was your profession? Anyone the marketing come from marketing? Okay, I'll assume unless someone like throws something in the chat or speaks up that that's a no. Um, so, and I'll say this, and if you're in marketing and you didn't speak up, don't just well, hear me out here. I think the hardest profession to come from and succeed in this business is the marketing industry. Here's why. Is because marketing doesn't work the same in real estate as it does in other industries. And so someone comes in with a marketing background, they say, I'm going to market my way to success, and they don't, meaning they don't succeed. Doesn't mean they don't market themselves. They market themselves and they don't succeed because they left out the prospecting piece. Now, marketing people can succeed, but, trust me, they can succeed. They just have to make sure that they don't forget about the prospecting side. But the hardest thing to do is to come in and say, well, I'm going to market my way to success, because that's not how this business grows. It is a relationship business. It is, and it always will be, no matter how much technology is involved. It will always be a relationship business. So lead generation is about building relationships. It's about communicating with people. And we always say that the growth of your business will be directly proportional to the number of people that you are connecting with. So keep that in mind. It's all about how many people that you're talking to. Because there's really only two things that will measure your success and how many clients you get. How many people you talk to and how good of a job that you do at conversion. Those two pieces. So if anyone ever ends up in front of me, they say, "Damn, my business isn't growing as fast as I would like it to." There's 100% of the time, one of two pieces are missing. They're not talking to enough people, or they're not saying the right things to convert. So lead generation, that's basically what lead generation is about. And so without clients, you don't have a business, right? So everything is about getting clients. And so my warning to you is, don't spend too much time making everything perfect. Don't worry about making a logo, creating a catchy name, or anything like that. I know people that are selling $15 million a year that don't even know they have a website, right? Because they connect with people. So that is the important thing, and that's where lead generation starts. Now, what we found is that with new and newer real estate brokers, the two highest, let me kind of rephrase this. The first transaction that someone closes in this business, most of the time, comes from one of two sources: sphere of influence or an open house. Now, there are a lot of lead generation sources. In fact, in the coaching program, we have what we call lead generation pyramid. And it starts from the top as far as what people oftentimes consider some of the hardest lead generation sources, which also provide the highest return. And then the bottom of the pyramid, where is the ones that people tend to gravitate to because they're easier and provide and give the lowest percentage of results. So the highest, at the top of this pyramid, and I'll just talk about the top of the pyramid because we spent like an hour on this pyramid. So the top of the pyramid is your sphere of influence. It's your biggest advocates, and it's connecting by phone or in person. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, millennials don't like to talk by phone. They do. They will, especially if you're the only one talking to them on the phone, right? It's like people started looking at their mail when everybody stopped sending stuff by mail, right? So our mailboxes used to be full of like ads and stuff, and then everyone said, direct mail doesn't work, and then people stopped doing it, and then the one person that did direct mail, people are like, oh, look, I got a direct mail piece, look at that. So it's the same thing with a phone call with millennials. So just if you're wondering about that, yes, it is correct that certain generations will communicate more by social media, by messaging and things like that. Everybody still does communicate at some level by phone, and that still is phone and in person, face to face. Those are the two highest relationship building type of connections that you can make. And if I were to look at it, say even a phone call is worth 10 texts or 15 texts. And in person, face to face, is worth 10 phone calls in terms of the impact and the effect that it has. So look at that. And even if you're dealing with somebody like, gosh, I just can't get a hold of my phone, but they respond to my text and other messaging, at some point set up a coffee meeting with them. Let them know what's going on, right? Do whatever you can to get a two-way communication going. So that's what lead generation is really about. Now, there are a whole bunch of lead generation sources. So we talked about a couple of them: sphere of influence, and sometimes we'll call that database too, because the database includes your sphere of influence, who you know. It is also past clients as you start to build a client base. It's also allied resources like vendors, for example, title, escrow, lenders, people that would be allied resources in other areas like services, like a pressure washer, gutter cleaner, roofer, landscaper, stuff like that, people that you might refer out to clients. Those would be people in your database as you're building your database, which I'm giving you hints too of people that you can add into your database. Start building relationships if you don't feel like you know a lot of people already. So everything, even every single lead generation source is about adding people to your database. If you meet someone at an open house, the goal is make them a client and or add them to your database. Right? So you either want to walk out the door committed to meeting you for a buyer consultation, or you add them to your database and you follow up with them, right? So everything that you do, if you call an expired listing, and maybe you have a good conversation, but they didn't commit to you to setting an appointment in that call, you put them in your database because you can follow up. So everything is about putting people in your database. So just to give you an idea of the kind of the vast availability of sources for lead generation. So think about database, open house, networking events as we start getting more of those. Now, a lot of those are online right now, but eventually you'll have in-person ones as well. And if you do networking events, don't think of the networking events that all the mortgage lenders and real estate brokers are going to show up at. Go to a job fair networking event or something like that. I used to get a bunch of leads from, there was a job fair type networking event. It was called, it's called ProLango. It's not, they don't do it anymore, but it was kind of a combination networking, job search type networking event. And I got leads out of there all the time because no other real estate brokers, mortgage lenders, insurance people, network marketing people, or anything would show up to that because they're like, oh, it's just a job fair. But what I would meet is I'd meet attorneys and doctors and other professionals that were coming into town to meet people because they're going to move to Seattle and they needed to get to know the landscape a little bit first. And so they would show up to these networking events. So don't underestimate the power of some of these things. Just sometimes it has to be different than what everyone else is doing. Think about, so we've got expired listings and for sale by owners, which I typically don't recommend new agents calling those unless, I'll make one exception, unless you're on a team and that's what the team's specialty is. Because then they'll teach you how to do that based on how the team does it. But for most new agents, unless you've got that kind of guys on a team and that's their specialty, then you might want to hold off on that for a little bit, at least, until you start getting, you start getting some experience under your belt. Because it does take a lot more. It's a higher volume type of thing. And then you've got, you can literally walk around your neighborhood and stop at garage sales. You can door knock. Door knocking is actually one of my favorite lead generation methods because I call it the unlimited supply of leads. Because are there more doors out there than you'd ever have time to knock? Yeah, definitely. You might be saying, what do I say if I door knock? Knock on the door, identify who you are, say, hey, I'm just curious, have you ever considered selling? You're like, I can't be that simple. People are doing that right now and they're getting leads. Now, it's not every door, but people are getting leads. When they talk to enough people, they ask a simple question. And if they say no, say, well, you know anyone else who might be looking at selling in this neighborhood? Right? Even better is if you have a buyer that wants to live in that area. You could door knock and say, I have a buyer looking for a house in this neighborhood, can't find something. You ever considered selling? Do an easy deal, give you market value, sell it off market, don't have to have people trampling through your house, right? So another form of lead generation. So I'm not going to spend too much more time on this, but I wanted to give you an idea of there's, oh, actually, let me back up one because I did forget one. Social media. Don't live off of that, but if you're doing social media, use that to help build your business too. And the way you use that to help build your business is by staying engaged with people. Staying engaged with people through social media. Let them know what you're doing. Right? Put questions out there that are intriguing questions, like that might relate to our industry. Hey, just curious, what's your favorite home warranty company? Right? Get stuff that engages people. It might actually be related to the industry you're into. And then you engage in conversation there when people comment, actually acknowledge their comments, for example. So social media can get you a lot of business. If you've got a buyer looking in a particular area, they're looking in like this particular area of Redmond, put something out on social media. Say, hey, I've got a buyer looking for a house in Redmond. We haven't been able to find anything. They want 2,000 square feet or above, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. If anybody is would be interested in potentially selling their house off market, let me know. We've sold houses that way. Someone reaches out. In fact, we had someone get both a buyer and a seller for this off-market property through social media, just like that, asking a question just like that. So it's about putting yourself out there. Don't be the secret agent, right? Make sure everybody knows what you do. And by the way, one last thing on lead generation, especially for newer agents, the hardest thing for a lot of newer agents to do is reach out to people that they know and let them know that they're in the real estate business and ask for referrals, because they're like, they won't take me serious. I'm new. I went to high school with this person. They know all the stupid things I did. Right? I grew up with this person, whatever it might be. And they're like, I'll wait until I get some success under my belt before I start reaching out to my sphere of influence. That's the biggest mistake that you can make. Because what happens is people in your sphere of influence, the first time you contact them, they will believe that you're a new real estate broker. So you can either contact them now and that they know that you're new, or you can wait a year from now and contact them. And at that point, they'll think you're a brand new agent. And you could have done 10 transactions by then, and they'll still think you're brand new if you wait a year. So you might as well start now. You're going to have some people that will support you no matter what. It's like, wow, I'm so excited for you. Yeah, I'll do whatever I can to help you help grow your business. And you'll have some people that will be like, oh, well, we'll see how Leo does. Yeah, we'll see how he does over time, right? And they'll watch you. But at least several months later, when you reach out to them, say, hey, how things going? Who is looking at buying or selling your home, their home? And they say, wow, I don't know anyone right now, but wow, you must be doing pretty good because you've been doing this for a few months now. Yeah, things are going great. I love it, right? And you engage in that conversation, and the more time goes by, those people that might have been a little bit doubtful or not ready to commit to you at that point, just having those conversations over time and seeing that you're still in the business will help build their confidence in you. So biggest thing I recommend, get in front of people that you know, let them know you're in the business. Ask for their support. People want to support you. If you have to, find out if they have someone else that they work with qualifying. Oh, by the way, if you were ever looking at buying or selling a home, or had a friend, family member who was, do you have a real estate broker that you would choose? No, I don't. Great. I'd love to be that one, right? Continue the conversation. If they do have someone, say, great. Everyone needs a good professional to work with, and maybe if I'm in this long enough and do well enough, maybe I can displace them. Right? Kind of a little smile on your face, right? You can. So, yeah, the whole idea here is don't overanalyze this business. It's just about talking to people. That's the biggest thing. It's about talking to people. And you might be thinking, well, I want to get a little bit more expertise before I start talking to people. Well, make sure you have the right support, and then you won't feel like you need to have the expertise. But better to talk to people, because remember, you could be the smartest real estate person in the world with no clients, and you have no business. So it's all about getting the clients. And be okay with messing up occasionally. Be okay with saying something like, did I just say that? Okay, well, okay. It is what it is. And people have short memories too. So if you say something stupid to someone on the phone, they're not going to remember that a month later. I guarantee you. And they're not going to come back and say, I remember you last month you said to me this. They're not going to say that, right? They're going to forget. They have short memories. So, all right. Enough on the lead generation topic. Keep things moving here. Got two more things going to cover before I got to jump off the call. But did anyone have any questions on the lead generation thing before I move over to the next topic? Okay, good. All right, let's talk a couple minutes about scripts. One of those other taboo words that people hate to hear. Scripts, oh no, robotic. Oh, I can't, I had a telemarketer call me, I could tell they're using a script. It's not really about that. So we use scripts a lot in this industry. And the people that use scripts correctly never sound robotic. They sound very natural, it flows, and they listen to people more. The reason they listen to people more is because they've internalized the script. They become so good at them, it became their own. And now instead of thinking of what they're going to say next, they can listen to the other side. They can watch body language. So the idea with scripts is there are certain things that you can say, these are scripts, that communicate things precisely. Because here's one thing, and I want you guys to notice this as you get moving forward in your business. If you're uncomfortable in a situation, pay attention to how much you talk. Because you know what most of us do when we're uncomfortable? We're afraid of silence, right? And so we ramble. And we take something that we could have said in 20 seconds and we stretch it out to 2 minutes. And then the person on the other end of the conversation is like, oh my gosh, I'm lost, right? So what a script does is it helps you stay on point very precisely. So even if you're nervous and uncomfortable, if you can put out that script, it will keep the communication where it needs to be. So they'll understand where you're going. So scripts do not have to be complicated. It can be one little sentence. You know that thing that I said, oh, by the way, if you're looking at buying or selling a home or had a friend or family member who was, am I the real estate broker you would choose? Or do you have a real estate broker that you would choose? That's a script. One sentence script. Internalize that. I mean, you probably weren't thinking when I said that, oh, that sounds like a script, right? Is that I just having a conversation, right? That's the idea, is have the scripts be part of your conversation. The idea isn't, oh, I need to use this script now. This is the one I use. I'm going to use it right now. No, it's about it flows. You might use a part of the script to throw in a sentence from one script and then a couple sentences from another script in the conversation. So here's where most real estate brokers fail on scripts. They memorize them and they stop there. All right, I memorize it. I don't have to look at it on paper anymore. I can say this. And then what happens is they get in the actual situation where they need to use it and all the words fall out of their head suddenly because they're uncomfortable. And that's what happens. If we haven't internalized something, mastered it, we're going to forget when we get in an uncomfortable or uneasy situation. So the key is to not just practice for memorization, practice for mastery. So the amount of time it takes to memorize a typical script is this long. Mastery, internalizing, this long, right? Can't even see, right? So, but the whole thing is that the boring part is going from memorization to internalization. Because you're going to say the script over and over 1,000 times, 1,500, 2,000 times. Yes, Robin.
So something that I've kind of compared that to with the script memorization is learning another language. If you were going to be pursuing another language, you would have to study it. You would have to practice it and say the same things over and over again until they were natural. Yep. And this is the same thing. You're learning the language of real estate and it takes a minute.
Yeah.
It's not that it's unnatural. Well, it is unnatural until it isn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and think about things like this. So a lot of scripts are single sentences. So So like in coaching, we go through a process called the 4-2 formula for open houses, how to have a conversation at an open house, which is a series of transition scripts. So for example, someone might walk in and we do an open-ended question. So yeah, look at the homes, how's that going for you? And listen, see if they want to talk or if they don't, right? They go around, look at the house, they come back into the kitchen, you're sitting there and you ask for some feedback and they give you some feedback, says, no, it's not really a house for me. The second bedroom's a little bit too small or it was a little bit old. We want something more updated, whatever it might be. It doesn't matter what they say, but usually they don't want it. And so you might say, oh, well, would you mind if I asked you a couple quick questions? I might be able to point you in the right direction. That's a script. And so they're like, yeah, sure. Okay. So you say, well, what's got you thinking it might be time to move? And you move on and they, you say, tell me more. What is it about your current home that's not working for you? And then you might give you some information. Say, oh, tell me more. What else? And say, okay, well, great. Well, what are some of the must-haves on your list? And they tell you a few things. Well, we gotta have this and this and this. Say, okay, great. Well, so what you're telling me is if you stay where you're at, you'll have to deal with blank, right? And they say, well, yeah. Say, okay, great. So that means I need to find you something that offers this blank. Is that right? Now, every single word that I use in that example, it was scripts. It was a series of scripts. Did it sound pretty natural? Better say yes. Okay. But anyways, so bottom line is how you practice something like that is you say it out loud over and over and over again. And it doesn't matter how fast you say it. If you're practicing alone, just say it as fast as you can over and over and over again. Oh, so you're out working at homes. How's that working? How's that going for you? Would you mind if I asked you a few good questions? I might be able to put you in the right direction. What's got you thinking might be time to move? What is it about your current home that's not working for you? What are some of the must-haves on your list? So what you're telling me is if you stay where you're at, you have to deal with blank. Is that right? So if I find you something, so what I need to do is find you something that offers blank. Is that right? And so you do it over and over and over again. Back to the top. So you're out looking at homes. How's that going for you? Boom, 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 boom. Say it as fast as you can over and over because step one is to memorize it and internalize it. If you've internalized something, it's going to flow properly when you're in that situation. Because you'll know exactly what to say. And instead of thinking about what to say, now you can concentrate on how to say it and listen to them and watch them. So that's my recommendation because a lot of times you'll be practicing scripts alone. If you get a script partner, that's great. A lot of times you'll get a script partner and you'll outlast them if you're serious about this business because they'll fizzle out. I can't tell you how many script partners I went through. Every morning, 7:30, we call. After about 3 weeks, get voicemail. Oh, sorry, I had an early desk appointment, forgot to tell you. Okay, great. Call the next day. Voicemail. Call the next day. Voicemail. I'm like, okay, I guess they're done, right? But be willing to outlast them, right? And if you do have a script partner, best practice is block like a half hour and get right to the point. No asking, hey, how was your weekend? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, what script are you working on? This one. Okay, great. And do it. Okay, my turn? Okay, great. Let's do this one. Do it. And go back and do the same one, back and forth again. Practice the same one, get good. Don't say, okay, I practiced my expired script once. Let me try the FSBO script now. Okay, let me practice the open house script now. It's all in the same half hour. Don't do that. Practice the same script over and over and over and over and over again. Don't become okay at a bunch of scripts. Become really good at one script at a time. That help out as far as getting some ideas as far as how to approach scripts?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. There are a lot of strategies for practicing scripts that do work. My strategy on how I told you is speaking it out loud as fast as you can over and over is not the only way to do it. It's one way that works. So, all right. Awesome. All right. So one last thing I'm going to cover here, because I got about 10 minutes before I have to jump off, and so this should be just enough time for this, is I'm going to talk a little bit about showing and previewing properties, about proper etiquette and best practices. So I'm going to jump here. I'm going to, let's do this. Let me start this and then I'll share my screen. We'll get to where I can share it here. Let's share. There we go. This will be the only PowerPoint I have for this. Okay. Everyone see that okay? Showing homes? Yep, good. Okay. So we're going to break this up into a couple categories. One is, let me get there. One is prior to the showing. We're going to have prior to the showing and during the showing. So some of the things that you'll want to keep in mind prior to the showing. A few best practices is dress professionally, even when you're previewing. I've gotten clients by previewing houses before. I was dressed presentable. I previewed a house. I walked out. Neighbor comes across the street, says, "Hey, are you the listing agent?" Said, "No, I'm not the listing agent. Are you looking at buying something?" Said, "No, I'm not looking at buying something, but my sister from Portland is, and she's been harassing me like crazy and taking up all my time asking about properties." I said, "Well, you want me to take that time off your hands and call your sister?" She's like, "Yeah, absolutely." Conversation was a little bit longer than that, but that's basically the gist of the conversation. And so I got a client out of that just by previewing a property and being presentable. So dress professionally. Review the showing instructions in Matrix. There's two places where there are showing instructions. One, it has actually, I think it might actually say showing instructions. It will tell if it has a key box, if you need to call first or call listing agent, anything like that. And then look at the broker remarks, confidential or confidential broker remarks. Have additional showing instructions, if any. Now, typically you have to, right now, we have to book all the showings through showing time, which makes it a little bit easier too, but make sure you review the showing instructions to see if there's any special things that you need to be aware of prior to showing or previewing. And actually, most of what I'm mentioning here will apply to previewing too. Previewing is when you're just going out as the agent without the buyer or without a buyer. It's just you looking at the property. So pull up the listing in HomeSpotter. This means you need to have the HomeSpotter app installed on your phone. HomeSpotter links it to NWMLS into Matrix. And you want to pull up the listing immediately before the showing, because right now the market's moving so fast. Sometimes you'll end up in front of the house, you'll be like, "Oh shoot, it just went pending. And the agent didn't tell me," right? So you want to make sure that the status hasn't changed. When you get there, it only takes a few seconds, if you have that on your phone. Show up on time or early, whether it's preview or a showing, show up on time or early. Allow for traffic. Traffic can sometimes be crazy. It's not as bad right now, but when things open up a little bit more, we'll be back to crazy traffic again. Oh, this whole thing was supposed to show up at once. Okay, well, I'll go through this anyway. So follow any COVID-19 protocols that are in place. So that should be self-explanatory. That will be changing over time as well. Lock the door and leave the key out of the key box during the showing. That's not required, but it's highly recommended, especially when you've got a property that's going to get a lot of showings, because that way you don't have another agent that comes in without scanning the key box. And then let's say you give the key to them because you're like, "I'm out the door, you can go ahead and lock up," and then they forget to lock up, or they leave a door open or a window open or something like that. And all the listing agent has to go through is it's like, "Oh, Mike is the only one that was the last one that showed the property." And you're like, "No, there was someone in after me," right? So what you can do to prevent that, you lock the door, leave the key out of the key box, so you just carry that with you. Lock the door so someone else can come in during your showing. But be aware of the showing slot that you have. If you book 15 minutes, make sure you're out of there in 15 minutes. If you booked a half hour, make sure you're out of there in a half hour, just as a courtesy to other agents that might need to show the property. And then be aware of cameras at the property too. A lot of properties have cameras. They are not legally allowed to listen to you, but some sellers do. So just keep in mind of what you say inside a property that's got cameras, and what you do especially too, right? And then always ask for feedback from the buyer as they are viewing the property. "Oh, how do you like the kitchen? What's your first impression? What's your, standing outside the house? Well, what's your, before you go inside, what's your first impression?" Right? If the living area was important to them, when you get to the living area, what are your thoughts on this? Where would you put your furniture? Ask for feedback as they go, because people are better at making small decisions than big ones. And what that means is it's like a micro commitment. "Oh, so the kitchen's a thumbs up, you love it? Okay, great." Right? And then when you ask them at the end, and you've gotten these little thumbs ups, throughout the time, where you address concerns along the way. "Oh, well, that's an issue. Well, is that a compromise you'd be willing to live with, or is that a deal breaker?" "Oh, no, I could probably live with that. We just put our bed over here since the fireplace is over here in the master bedroom." Like, okay, great. That way, when you get done with the showing, You can ask them, say, well, that sounded like it was pretty much a thumbs up on just about everything. Is this something you'd want to write an offer on? It's easier for them to make a commitment, a big commitment, when they've already made a lot of little commitments leading up to that. So that's why you ask for feedback during the process, not just afterwards. And then also during the showing, leave the property in the same condition as when you entered it. So if there were lights on when you got there, leave those lights on. If there were lights that you turned on, turn those off. Make sure all the doors in the house are locked, that it's secured at least. If there's like a garage door, inside garage door that goes out to the garage, if it was unlocked when you got there and the house is still secure because the outside garage door is locked, leave it unlocked. The seller might not have a key to that inside garage door, right? So however they left it, that leaves it still secure, however they had it. When you came in the showing, the leave it still secure. That's the way you want to leave it. And then make sure the keys are back in the key box after the showing. And then last one, to confirm with the buyer whether they like the property and write up an offer. I kind of mentioned that earlier, but at the end, you need to ask them. You don't just say, okay, good, well, let me know if you want it. Or hey, you want to go out and see the next one? Say, well, do you like this enough to write an offer on it? Right? Get a yes or a no. Or if they say we need to sleep on it, say, okay, great. So just so I have an idea, what are some of the main things you need to think about tonight? Right? And then you kind of get an idea, so you can come back and hit those things the next day to see if you can help them make a decision. Because this is the big decision for people to make, and some people aren't accustomed to making big decisions. So, all right, any questions about showing, previewing process or anything? Okay. One thing I'll mention, a little trick about previewing. Nothing wrong with previewing, just going out as the agent and without a buyer. And even if you talk to the seller and they say, are you bringing your buyer? It's like, no, I'm just previewing for my buyer. I tend to do that oftentimes so I can so I can know what's out there. When we're out of this, primarily once we're out of the COVID restrictions, which might be within a couple months, I like it when the seller stays there during a preview. I don't like it when they stay there during a showing. So best practice is seller leaves for a showing. I'm okay with the seller being there for a showing. And so if I communicate with the seller prior, it's okay for them to be there for a preview. So if I'm setting a preview and I'm communicating with the seller, then I will actually tell the seller, I'll say, if you were planning on leaving for this, like you weren't already going to be gone, it's okay for you to stay. I'll be in and out in 5 or 10 minutes. I just need to take a look. You don't need to leave. So you can, and the great thing about that is, you can get some information from the seller, and you can get a chance to meet you, and they can say, oh wow, this Samantha's pretty nice, whatever. And if that listing ever expires, you should be the first one calling. Hey, remember me, right? But also too, if you go to put in an offer, they might recognize your name and say, oh yeah, Jeremy, I really liked him. He was a great guy. He previewed our house before he brought his buyer. Yeah, right. And so they might even recognize you. So let's see. I'm going to check a couple things in the chat here. How much say does listing agent have over me holding an open house? So how much say does a listing agent have for you holding an open house, like you offering to hold an open house for a seller, or the listing agent deciding for the seller that they're going to hold an open house?
For the listing agent over I'm holding an open house for another listing.
Okay.
And maybe we have all of our own branding. We have a huge open house flag with our stuff on it.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, you don't want that. I don't want that at my listing.
Well, there's a certain distance you can go. What I always say is if you're holding an open house, that is your listing for that 2 or 3 hours. In fact, what I even do is if I was holding an open house, I take all the flyers out of the flyer box and leave that empty. I encourage people to come in. I put my flyers with my branding in the open house, and then I'll put the flyers back out in the flyer box. But the open house is about you connecting with the buyers that are coming in. And so now there might be a line where you have to be careful about how much of your branding that you do, but But just keep in mind an open house is about you, the open house agent that's actually holding the open house. Because my flyers, that I have inside the open house, they'd have me all over it, and it might have a reference to the listing brokerage, listing courtesy of blank, right? It's small at the bottom, but it's all about me. What's
Right.
that?
We're trying to get their house sold, right? That's
Exactly. And you want the buyers to go to you, because that's why you're holding the open house, not the listing agent. Maybe in that case is because the listing agent wants someone that's going to be, pull these buyers in and communicate with them. So that's why it is. You want to make that connection directly between you and the buyer. And really, when you're holding an open house, it's like the listing agent doesn't exist in that moment. Because you're talking with the buyers, you're working on seeing if you can sell it from the buyer's side. And then if you can't, then you have the right to take that buyer and go see if you can find another house if that wasn't the house that was a good fit for them.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. Well, I'm going to have to jump off here to jump on another call. But did that help as far as getting? Oh, all right.
That was fantastic, David. Thank you
Tremendously.
so much.
Awesome.
Thank you, David.
Oh, Mary, I see Mary has her hand up. David has to hop off because he does have an 11 o'clock. But Mary, if I can't help you, oh, I see your hand went away. But if I can't help you, we can definitely get the answers for you so David can move on.
Yeah, I can follow up later if necessary, but Robin probably might be able to help out too. So, all right. Hey, good to see you guys and good to meet you guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Isn't he amazing? Like, we have some of the best people here in our office. We really do. So what I wanted to do now was share Janine's Facebook Live. This is something that she does every Friday. If you haven't heard of her, Janine Wood is our designated broker. She has been in the business about 25 years, I think. She had been with a couple of the brokerages before, a title company, and then she's been our DB here for at least a year and a half, and she is absolutely amazing. She's going to be on a little bit later today just to walk through some compliance and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just waiting for her to go live. If you need to run and grab something, sorry about that. If you need to run and grab something, go to the bathroom or whatever, you do have a couple minutes. Just pulling up this schedule. All right. Yeah. So Janine will be on at 10, and then at 10:10, Lena Truhoft, our team leader, or kind of like a branch manager. I think most of you have met her and know who she is. She's going to be teaching you how to write an offer, walking you through all the purchase and sale docs, how to pull those together, which ones you should be using, all that kind of stuff. And then at 11, we'll take a full 10-minute break. You guys will have some breathing room then. Let's see if Janine is live. So these Facebook Lives that Janine does every Friday, she hops on Facebook. There is no link or anything specific you need for that. Just when she does go live, she's pretty prompt right at 10. Then you'll get a notification that she is live, and you can just hop in the Facebook group and check that out. And so what she covers is if she has seen anything that week, something happening in the industry, common mistakes people are making, any sort of information or advice that she's come across that might help you in your business. Things move fast and change fast in the industry for sure. So these little quick snippets are helpful. Just going to keep refreshing this. If you are not part of our Facebook group, what are you doing with your life? No. But I'm going to drop that in the chat. See this notification here? Janine Live is now. There we go.
Robin, it's very hard to hear her.
Hmm. Hold on. Is that better?
Nothing changed. Do you hear her?
Yeah, I can, but that's not helpful for anybody. Hold on, I'm trying. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. These are recorded, so if we don't end up getting into it, you will be able to check it out later. Nothing, you guys?
No, but I logged into the Facebook and I can
Okay.
hear that at the same time for some reason.
Well, oh, hold on. That did not go how I had hoped. So when you share the video, is there an option you could check to optimize screen share for video clip? No, I didn't see that, Kevin. Thank you for that. I might have missed it, but I think because I just did a general screen share from the Facebook page instead of like an actual video, it didn't quite work. So sorry about that, guys. But as you can see, those Friday updates are super short, super quick, just topical information. She was talking about, if you do go back and check it out later, she was talking about basically risk tolerance in your offers and all of the things that buyers are waiving right now in order to get their offers through and the risks associated with that. And not just to your clients, but you know, potentially your reputation as well. So if you are removing contingencies, waiving contingencies, basically make sure you understand the impact of that and be able to explain that to your clients, because that is our job, is to explain their risk. Of course, Janine always says things better than I do. So when that is available, it should be available in a few minutes to watch. So I am anticipating Lena kind of stuff. So Lena is joining us right now, and she will be going over that purchase and sale agreement, how to write that, put that together. Oh, look who's here. You are good to take over whenever you're ready, Lena.
Oh, I'm on now? Oh,
You're
okay.
on now. Whenever. Janine's Facebook Live was pretty short and sweet today, and we had some audio issues. So,
All right, I'm just logging into my MLS and then I will be ready to go.
Good morning, Elena.
Morning. Okay, hold
Does
on.
everybody know Lena? Have you all met her? I'm sure you have.
Yes, she's awesome.
Oh,
Well,
hold
if
on.
you haven't met her, you should. I'm sure you will soon.
How many people do we have on? Ooh, 14. Okay, do I have control now?
You should.
Share my screen. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
All right. So what I'm going to show you, and sorry if Robin just said this, but I'm just going to walk you through how to draft a purchase and sale agreement. And this is, if you guys have your computers in front of you, if you're following along, it makes it so much easier if you physically go through this. Like me personally, I can watch somebody show something and that's great. And when they're doing it, I'm like, yeah, I get it. I totally understand. But if I'm not doing it myself, then I'll go to do it later and be like, wait, what? Like, I can't remember it. So it's so much easier if you can kind of physically go through it yourself at the same time. If you can't right now, just do me a favor later tonight or this weekend, just log into your MLS and go to your transaction desk and try to do a fake offer. Don't submit it, but try to do a fake offer just so you get that feeling of where the buttons are and what you're clicking on. Because if you're working with somebody and they all of a sudden want to write an offer and you're scrambling and you haven't done it before, then you're going to freak out and need help, obviously. So it's just nice to have gone through it. Okay, so anyways, here is your MLS. And does everybody have MLS access? Have you all gotten
Yes.
that? And
Yeah, I think we have like 1 or 2 brand new agents that don't, but they will soon.
okay, so when you log in, here's what it looks like. And now if you go to Matrix, that's where all the listings are. And from here, you can also go to Transaction Desk. I'm going to take you to the Matrix first so that we can pick a listing that we're going to write an offer on. It's just easier and I'll show you why. But if you go to Transaction Desk first and start to type it in, you have to put in all the information. If you go to the Matrix and you go to the listing and start from there, it automatically pulls in all of the information. And I like doing the easiest route and not having to do extra work for myself. So let's see, we need to find a listing. Robin, do you have a listing offhand? Danielle probably does, right?
Yeah, Danielle probably does. Or
Let's just,
Kathy.
here, let me just go to one of my recent searches. What is this listing that I just looked at? Ah,
No.
so this super cute house just went live. It's actually next door to my sister's house. That's why I was looking at it. Okay, so we're going to pretend that we're going to write an offer on this house. Now, if you're looking at the Matrix and you see these little icons right here, you're probably familiar with the showing time one to book showings. But if you go to this little pen and paper one, from there, that'll take you to Transaction Desk and it'll pull in all of this information. So you don't have to worry about writing the wrong street or transposing a number. You can just do it from here. But first, I always want to look at these supplements. So these supplements are what the listing agent, hopefully, has uploaded. Now, they don't have to upload all of this. They could just upload the legal and call it a day. Hopefully, though, and like I see on here, this one didn't even upload the Form 17. So I just like to look on here to see what they have, because if they have the 22K and the 22J, which are lead-based paint and utilities, then I know when I'm going to add the forms, I don't need to add those. If they don't have them on here, then I'll add them, no problem. So I just kind of glance at it, go back. And if at any point you guys have a question, just shout it out. This is an open forum. Okay, so Transaction Desk, we're going to click on. Robin, how much time do I have? Just so I can keep an eye on it.
You have until 11.
Okay. then I will try not to give you stories like I normally do, and I'll just go right to the important stuff. Okay, so see how it pulled in all of the information. So here's the address, residential sale, there's the MLS number, and I am the selling broker because selling is buyer's agent, and we're pretending right now that I'm writing an offer for my clients as their buyer's agent, right? So I'm going to go to create. Takes a minute. Okay. So here now in Transaction Desk, you'll see this is your dashboard. This is where all your transactions are going to be listed. Okay. So if we were to go back there, once we start doing it, any transaction you're working on or have done will be in there. So here's the transaction we're working on. It automatically pulled all of the information, right? It's all input here. So I don't have to input any of that, which is so great. So on this details, step 1 of 5, we scroll down and I'm going to put in purchase price. We're going to go $950. Okay. I go to next. Purchase and sale agreement. I know that for my clients, since it's only 10 in the morning right now, we're submitting this today. If it was 9 p.m. and we were going to be submitting it tomorrow, just put tomorrow's date. So just be aware of what you're putting and why. So here's today's date. And you know what? I'm going to make it expire today because we're going to try to get it. All right, mutual acceptance, we're leaving blank. Closing date, I'm going to say that we can close in, let's say 3 weeks. Okay, possession date, we're going to take possession on closing. If it's different for your clients, just be aware of that. Next. So here is all the information. It already pulled in the seller. If that was listed, it pulled in the listing broker, the firms, my information. At this point here, I'm going to create new transaction contact. So I'm going to put in my buyers right here. That way their information's in here and I don't have to input it later. So type buyer, first name, buyer, last name, buyer, email, buyer@test.com. Okay. So save. And if there was a spouse or somebody else that they were buying it with, you could add another contact. We're just going to go with buyer by himself. Okay. So next. So forms are blank. Now this is where I want to add all the forms that we're going to be using. And for the sake of showing you guys, I'm just going to add the basic forms. I'm not covering negotiations and why you may want to add a 22 AD for more down payment. We're not going to go into that. I'm just going to show you the basics, okay? And you definitely want to be taking Janine's forms classes. They are amazing. And we have some new stuff right now that just came out that even I still have questions about. So you definitely want to take those classes. There's a couple new tricky forms around financing and appraisal and more down payments and stuff. So you want to understand those. Okay, so we're going to go 21, which is your basic residential purchase and sale. Could be different if you're doing a condo, but we're going to go with the residential purchase and sale. Now note how I just click it and it automatically added it to this. See this little basket? It says 1. So now I just go here. We're going to go 22. We're going to go financing because my buyers have financing. So I checked it. This just changed to 2. I'm going to go 22. I'm not going to do an increase down, but here it is if you wanted to. We're going to go 22D, which is always in there, optional clauses. We're going to go T, which is title. This one was on septic, so we're adding septic. We're going to add inspection so that you can see that form. There's also now that one of the new forms is a 35W. I'll just throw that in there so you can see it. But you wouldn't normally add both of those, but I'm just going to put them in just so you can see them. Okay. I think that's good. 21, 22. Oh, we're going to do, she did not have J and K on there. So I'm going to show you those. And the house may be older than lead-based paint would even be required, but I'm just going to show it to you anyway. Lead-based paint, and then 22K is utilities. A lot of times a listing agent will already put those, but as you saw in the supplements, she did not. So 22K. Okay, so now see how the basket here says 9? We're going to add all of these, and they will all show up in that forms area. Okay, so now next one. Now these are the documents that they have uploaded. So you'll see they have their stuff here. Okay. So they actually have an inspection report and septic information on here, which probably means they want us to waive that, but I'm still going to show you those forms. Remember, this is not really showing you like the negotiation tactical side. This is just to show you the forms. Okay, so now here's the dashboard. Here's what it looks like. You can see on the right side, if we had done any signings for it, you could click on that and they would be there. Here's all the forms that we uploaded. So I'm just going to click on one. It doesn't matter what, but I personally like to start with the main purchase and sale form. And then once we have that on here, you can just go up to this button right here to toggle back and forth between the forms. Okay, so we're going to do this one first. Make sure we can see it all. So here's our date. I'm going to put that it expires at 5 p.m. Otherwise, the automatic time is 9. Okay. So here's my buyer status, an unmarried person. So you want to put whatever the status is of the names that you're putting. See how it pulled in all this information. Now you're going to put whatever was included. We're going to say that all of this was included. Make sure that you check the MLS. So for example, you want to look on here to see what is included. Because if washer dryer is not listed on here and you check the boxes for it, guess who's buying the client's washer and dryer? Okay. So our purchase price is $950. Earnest money, we're going to do, let's say 50,000. Oops, not 500,000. 50,000. Check. We now enter the amount of days for the delivery of that earnest money. So you put that there. Held by closing agent. Our firm does not hold earnest money. So you want to click the box for closing agent. That is escrow, okay? Default, forfeiture of earnest money. Janine can explain why, but that's the one that you want to pick. Otherwise, if you pick seller, then they can choose to do more and go after your clients. Title, again, you want to look on the MLS and see what they said that they wanted to use. It should say right here, Kelly Birch at First American, okay? So we go back. Kelly Birch was the individual. First American, title and escrow. Okay. Possession date, we're doing on closing. Utilities, we want to do requested. So that's the 22K. This is what you fill out, or the listing agent fills out of the utility information, so that escrow can make sure that all of their utilities are paid at closing. So that when your buyer takes possession, there's not outstanding utility bills, okay? Charges and assessments levied before but due after closing. We're going to do prepaid in full by seller. We want the seller to pay any charges and assessments that there are. Otherwise, again, your buyer assumes those, okay? FIRPTA, seller is not a foreign person. Agency disclosure, buyers represented by buyer broker, seller by listing broker. Here's where you're going to input the forms that you are attaching. I personally am super OCD. I like them in order. If I even add something later, I will go back and change these and make sure that they are in order. Okay. We did septic. We did title. And inspection. The 35W, if you use that instead of an inspection, if you're waiving it, is not an addendum. So you put it in this one right here. So it's not, if you notice, it's not in this drop down. See? Okay. You guys good so far? I hate just talking and hearing my voice the whole time. Okay. So that is it for this page. You'll notice all of this is automatically filled in also. I'm going to go up here and save. If you do not save and you go up here to the transactions or transaction forms to click the next one, your stuff's not going to save. So you need to make sure to save it. Okay. So we go up here, we go to the financing addendum 22A. So you'll want to make sure when you go to write an offer, and you should already know all this information, but make sure that you're aware of what kind of loan, what percentage they're paying, okay? And you should have a pre-approval letter that you're going to submit with your offer as well. This is new. So I'm going to check A. Again, don't just check A because you're watching me check A during this. Make sure that you understand why you're checking what boxes. Okay, because right now it's super crazy with all of these appraisals, and appraisals are coming in low. And if you're on a team, make sure you check with your team leader. If you're not on a team, check with David if you're in coaching, or Janine. Just make sure you know why you're checking what boxes, okay? Here's number 3 is if you're asking the seller, which probably not in this market, but if you're asking the seller to pay some of the closing costs, you'd put that here, okay? So optional clauses, you'll want to always include this form. You always check the box square footage right here. This is saying that you and the listing broker are not the ones responsible for saying what the square footage is. Title insurance, I don't check either one of these. Reason being is if you check standard, it actually lowers it, and you don't want to lower it. And then extended, there's only a couple instances that you would do extended coverage. So I leave it blank unless I'm doing, like, land would be one for feasibility. So just again, make sure that, you know, if you're doing some sort of special property, that you know which one you want to do. Cellar cleaning, I always do. Personal property. Utilities, you're making sure that it's connected to whatever it says it is. So for this one, it was septic, gas, telephone, electricity, and then public water. This was not new construction, so we're not going to check that. Leased property, for example, when I bought my house, there was a propane tank. So just know that if there's anything leased, I just saw a listing the other day and it said on there, leased, I think it was an oil something. So just make sure that you know if there's something leased that is going to be assumed by your buyer. Homeowners association. So if there's a homeowners association, you have a review period. So you have X amount of days to get the homeowners, you know, CC&Rs, information for your buyer to look over and make sure that they're okay with, you know, say not painting the house pink or whatever it says in there. Okay. So you can change the days. I usually lessen it to make it look a little bit better. Then there's the homeowner transfer fee. So the HOA for, let's say, a condo complex will charge, you know, $500 to transfer the name into a new person. So I would say check by seller. Home warranty. Sometimes it'll say on the listing on that front page that they're paying for a home warranty. I always check the box and I put that I'm buying it for my client. So I would just check this and put selling agent to purchase home warranty. Save. Forms. Title. Are you kind of getting idea of like where the buttons to like go up and save and then to click the forms and see how everything every time is already pulled in, all the information. So title contingency, we're going to go with buyer will have, I'm going to lessen it to make it look good. Receipt of preliminary commitment. I check that and not of mutual acceptance, because let's say it was 2 days for mutual and they don't give it to you till the second day. Now you have 0 days, right? So from the date of your actual receipt of that prelim, okay? Save. And you want to review all these forms, right? You want to review them so that you read through them and ask yourself questions. If you don't understand what it means, ask Janine, ask your rainmaker, ask your coach. You know, you want to understand, because your clients will ask you those questions and you want to be able to have answers for them. So title, we're going to go septic because we're on septic. It's a private septic. So you're saying, I think in this case, they had something uploaded. So you wouldn't, the rule for septic is that they have to have it inspected within 12 months. If it was inspected after 12, like within the last 12 months, they don't have to do it again. If it was inspected prior to 12 months, then they do. If they did it 10 months ago, they don't have to do it, but maybe you want to do one. So you check this, that you're going to have an inspection done on it. So inspection. So this is where, you know, obviously this market is so crazy, but if you were doing an inspection, this is automatically, even if you don't check a box, that it could include sewer, a sewer inspection. I changed this to make it look better, you know, so instead of 10 days to do an inspection, I'm going to do it in 3. So again, this is, you know, you'll want to talk with whoever's mentoring you, coaching you, training you on what you're going to do for your inspection contingency if your buyers are wanting to do an inspection in this market. I do not ever do neighborhood review because, I mean, that's just, I feel like not going to get your offer accepted. And people should already know what neighborhood they're moving into. And, you know, usually that's the case. So if anything, try to lessen your inspection to make it look better. But that's really the only thing you'll fill out there. Oops. Okay. And then I'll show you this one. So if you were going to waive your inspection and just do the 35W, you can either do, let's say you did a pre-inspection, there's a box for that. If you're just going to waive it all together, check that. If you did a pre-inspection, you're good, check that. That's it. Okay. If they did a pre-inspection or the seller did one and you just want to do these, so all we want is blah, 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 and you put it there. So you would include that. So lead-based paint and the utilities one, like I said, is really the seller should have filled out. So the seller will say, you know, known lead-based paint or no knowledge of any lead-based paint. And then the buyer has to say if they've waived the opportunity to test it or accepted an opportunity to test it. And everybody has to sign. Broker also has to sign this. Okay. And then with the utilities, that one just needs to be filled out from the seller with all of their utility information. And sometimes they'll attach a blank one. So it just needs to be filled out within 5 days. That way you can make sure that escrow has all the information and that the seller pays all of their owed utilities from the date of closing. So now you have all of your forms done. Okay, let's take you back to the dashboard so you can kind of see all this. So here's your dashboard. Here's all the transactions we have going. Here's all the things we have signed right now. So we want to go back here, right, to this transaction. We're going to open it up. If you click on signings, it's empty because we haven't done any signings for this. So we want to start a signing now for all of these forms to send to our client. So you can go add signing name. I like to put the address and the last name of the agent. Not only for myself to be able to find it, and if you have a lot of transactions going, you want to be able to search by the last name, but so that when you submit it to the listing agent, they can also see the last name. They're going to get a million offers, right? So this was 9520 Wall Street. And I'm putting buyer because that was my buyer's last name. Okay, signing name, save. And I love that they finally updated this because it used to be so awful to put the documents in and put them in order. And then if you had to change one, it was just blah. So now it's so much nicer. You can just drag it and move it around. I love it. So buyer, add documents, and we're going to add, and here's all the documents that they uploaded and the forms that we just did. So it's all here. We're going to click on them all. Well, not all, but we're going to click on all the ones that we did. We're not doing any of these that they uploaded except for legal. We are going to add the legal because we're going to put our initials on it. The Form 17, which they did not upload, but the Form 17, the seller disclosure, you will also want to have your client sign and submit with your offer, but not in this same PDF. So all of these forms that you're going to send for signing will be in one PDF. Your Form 17 will be in a separate one. If you put it together, they have to separate it. It's just not clean. You need to do your offer, pre-approval letter, Form 17, 3 separate attachments. So here is everything. Now, again, here's my OCD. I like to make sure that these are all in order. 21, 22A, D, T, Q, I don't know, P, Q, or ST. So that comes first. 35, 35W, 22J. We're going to move up here. Okay. See, I like them all in order. There we go. Legal at the end. It just makes it so much easier, especially for, think about the listing agent that's getting so many offers and they're scrolling through. And even when they're looking at your front page offer that lists all of those drop downs, if those aren't in order and they're going, oh, wait, oh, they did include that, but it's at the end. So, and then they're looking through the offer and they're trying to find these pages. If they're just in order, it makes it so clean. And you want to do everything in your power to make your offer look as clean and nice as possible. So here is all the information. For some reason, my 5 o'clock did not stay right there. So we're going to mark it up. So here's all the things that you're going to use on the right. Here's this drop down. If there was a spouse, let's say, that both names would be right there. You could toggle back and forth. So mark up. We're going to click this T. That's how you type anything. And we're putting 5 p.m. Okay. I always like to read over everything again, make sure it's all correct. Closing date 4/16. Okay. Now, if there are spots for your buyer to sign, when you input all the forms right here, it will automatically input their signatures, okay? You'll see, look at, there's the initials and date automatically, except for any of the documents that are uploaded into the supplements that we pulled in, okay? So we actually didn't pull any in. Had they put the J and the K in supplements filled out, and had we pulled those in, you would see that they would be blank, and we would need to put in our own information using this little T to do the text. And then we would also need to add initials and signing for our buyer. But there's nothing to use as an example for that because they didn't upload them. But so we're going to go to the end and show you. So here's the legal description. Okay. So legal, we're just going to add initials. Okay. And then we would go to next, which we're not going to do because it's going to email to buyer@test.com. So you would click next and it would send it out as an email. Instead, we're going to go back and continue without saving. And we're going to go back to this main page. So here's our transaction. You see in Authentisign now we have this signing that's just sitting in the wizard waiting. Let's say we were like, oh shoot, you know what? We want to add an escalation. We just go right back here, go to forms, click this little plus sign, and you can just add. If you don't know the numbers by heart, which I promise you'll end up learning all of them by heart, you'll know, oh, 35E, the escalation. Just start typing escalation. Boom. Okay. And then you can add it from there. And now it'll be there. And you can click on it to fill out. Now, if you go back to signings, our signing is going to be sitting right there. If it was sent to them, you would get an email that says, if it was sent to them and they opened it, Mr. Buyer opened it, you'll get an email that says, somebody has opened your signing. And then once they start signing it, it'll say, an action has taken place in your signing. And then when they finish it, you get an email that says, it has been completed, download here. And on the download here, you just click it and it'll drop it right into your downloads and then you have your PDF. I like to, obviously they're all in here, but I'll have files. So you can see in the corner right here, close Truehaft Homes. So you can keep all of your files in one place. And then obviously you'll have all the documents uploaded into Command, which that's a whole nother thing. I'm not in charge of teaching that one. But that's it. Did you guys understand all that? Did I confuse you? Was it okay?
It was really good. Thank you, Lena.
Good? Okay, good. Good. Like I said, you know, obviously I wasn't showing you negotiation tactics or why you check certain, I mean, I kind of said a few things, but I don't want Janine to get mad at me, so I don't go into that too much. But definitely take her contracts classes because she goes into detail about what every single thing means. And she's so knowledgeable about it. So you guys just have to plug into that. And that's all I got. Do you guys have questions? No? Robin, are you there? Robin? Robin, can you hear me? She gone. I think she said the next thing is at 11, right? So maybe you guys get a little break. I'm like, that's like letting you out early.
They just said we got a couple 10-minute breaks.
Okay. I'm gonna run over and let her know that I'm done, but I'm pretty sure that means you guys can take a break till 11. If you don't have any more questions for me. I'll go tell her.
Hi guys, totally multitasking. So we are good, actually. We don't have Janine coming on until 11:10. And actually, I apologize, not Janine, it's actually Dave Piedrahita, our launch coach. So you guys have almost half an hour to do whatever you would like. So take a break, lead gen, practice scripts, whatever that might be, and we will see you back on here at 11:10. If you
Morning,
have
Robin.
not met him yet, we have Dave Piedrahita on. We just call him Dave P. He is our launch coach here at the office. And part of what he does is explain to you guys the different business models that are available to you coming into real estate, since there are more than one path that you can choose. So he's going to explain those to you and kind of help you decide what might be the right one for you. Dave, if you need to share your screen, you should be set up to go.
Awesome. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're doing well and having a good morning of learning. I guess I will just get started. Like Robin said, my name is Dave Piedrahita. I am an agent in the Kirkland office. So I am the launch coach. I am also in production. So I am in the trenches with you all. And you know, my path when I started in this business not that long ago, a little over 4 years ago, was getting into coaching. That was my path. And you know, and I looked at some different options, and for me, I was coming out of another business that I was running, and I jumped both feet in here, and you know, I just felt that going that route was going to give me the best chance of success. And, you know, I wanted to get traction as quickly as possible. And that helped me do that. And, you know, my business has grown every year. And, you know, in 2020, I sold 16 homes and over $10 million in volume. So not a bad year, and hoping to top that this year. So, you know, what we're here to talk about is kind of the different paths that you have available to you getting started in this business. And, you know, I think it's important to be able to make a well-informed decision, you know, and I think in anything that we do in life, and whether it's business or otherwise, you know, the best decisions are the most well-informed decisions. So taking the time, learn your options, learn the different paths, is going to help you to be able to decide what is best for you. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go through the different options available to you that we see most regularly in this industry. And, you know, please, if you have any questions along the way, please speak up, and also we can take questions towards the end. And I don't know if you guys are leaning in any direction at all right now. And if you are, that's great. But this can kind of help solidify that, I hope, and get you all closer to being able to really decide how you want to move forward with this. So, you know, like we said, there's generally 4 startup paths when someone gets into real estate. And that can be as a solo agent. And that's just basically, you know, I passed my test, got my license, hung it at a brokerage, and I'm just going at it on my own. There's solo agent with a mentor, and that's usually when a newer agent partners up with a high producing agent that needs some help with their day-to-day. And, you know, in return for some of that help, they kind of show them the ropes. Then there's joining a team, and, you know, we see teams in just about every real estate office and brokerage out there. And, you know, teams can be very small, like 3 people, and teams can be 300 people. You know, it just depends, and there's no right or wrong way to do it, and it's just what's best for that team leader, or rainmaker as we call them. We'll talk about teams a little bit more in detail in a moment. And then there's solo agent with a coach, and that's basically getting your license, going solo, and choosing to do so with a coach. And we'll talk about that a little bit as well. So just from tracking the statistics over the last decade, that we've been keeping track. We can pretty much cross out the first two because there's such a big gap between the success rate in this business and those who last through their first 2 years. You know, it's 80 to 90% of new agents don't see year two. And, you know, and I'm not saying that to scare you guys, but it is a low success rate that actually, you know, makes a business for themselves in this. But, you know, I truly believe that a big chunk of that percentage is that top spot, that solo agent. You're going to learn so fast that what you had to study and learn to pass your real estate exam, you will barely use any of that information in the real world of real estate. And you have just barely scratched the surface of everything that you need to learn in order to succeed in this business. So, you know, oftentimes those agents that get started that way, and we don't see a lot of that at KW because people come to KW for the training and they come to KW for the coaching. You know, you see this oftentimes at other limited service brokerages, but not as much in the full service brokerages. So, you know, that's my thought on that. And that I think that a big percentage of the dropout is that solo agent. And then there's solo agent with a mentor. And a lot of people think, well, that sounds, you know, like it could be a good way to go. And, you know, once in a while it does work out. You know, I'm not going to say it's a fail every time. But the biggest issues we see there is a lot of times that mentor is basically just looking for some extra hours in the day, and they need help, you know, taking some things off their plate, whether it's showing homes, sitting in inspection, you know, catching up on paperwork. So, you know, they'll put a new agent to task with handling a bunch of these types of things, which is great out of the gate. And, you know, that's all good stuff for us to learn. But, you know, it doesn't take long for those repetitive things to get old. And if that producing agent, that mentor, is not finding a time to actually help to grow that new agent's business and teach them how to do so, sometimes that is when that relationship, you know, gets a little stale and sour. So, you know, it's something that the right match will sometimes produce something, you know, that works really well. But oftentimes that's how we see that kind of fizzle out over the short term. So it leaves us with joining a team and solo agent with a coach as just statistically being the highest chances of succeeding in this business. So let's start a little bit about teams. You know, like I said, teams are in every office, teams are in every brokerage, and there are big teams, there are small teams. There are also very, very well-run teams, and there's also very, very poorly run teams. Remember, this is all our own businesses, and you know, how agent A, B, and C decides to run their business is totally up to them. And that could be, you know, doing a fantastic job or a poor job. And the same thing can go with a team. So I always advise people that are, you know, looking at any option, you know, interview the team as much as they interview you, and make sure that they have a plan to really develop your skills and teach you the foundations of this business so that you can, you know, one day maybe start your own team, or be a highly productive solo agent. So, you know, what is a team? Let's just kind of talk about that. You know, what makes up a team? And it's usually an agent that, you know, wants to grow their business and they've kind of hit a wall because there's just not enough hours in the day for them to do any more business. So generally what they'll do is they'll start by adding what we call a showing assistant. The showing assistant is going to help them with their buyers in showing homes. That is probably one of the most time-consuming things that we do. And that's because the property is not identified. And oftentimes the buyers, you know, are changing their minds. You're taking them from house to house, town, city to city, area to area. And it can be, it can be a long haul till you get them into a home. So that's a huge time save for someone that brings in a showing assistant. And And then the next step would be to bring on a buyer's agent. And that buyer's agent is someone that they can just start handing buyer leads to directly. And now the buyer's agent and that showing assistant can kind of work together to work the buyer's side of the business. And if this person's really busy, and we call someone that runs a team the rainmaker. So if the rainmaker is super busy, has lots of business, you know, maybe there's multiple buyer's agents, there's multiple showing assistants, you know, it just depends. But at this point, they need to bring in some full-time admin help, whether it's 1 or 2 full-time admins. Those admins are going to help with all the scheduling, all the marketing, all the transaction management. You know, they're going to make sure all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed. They are what keeps any team running smoothly. They're what keep any solo agent running smoothly, whether it's a transaction coordinator or an admin. They are worth their weight in gold. And so that's a very, very important piece to this. And it's a very important piece to a successful team. Once they have that in place, they'll start looking to fill in help on the listing side, bring in a listing specialist or 2 to start helping take on some of the listings. And the ultimate goal of a rainmaker is to be able to step completely out of production and step back. They've got this well-oiled machine of a team that's running, and, you know, and they no longer have to actually be in the trenches and doing the work. And their team is making them hopefully a lot of money, and they're having a lot more time for kind of a semi-retirement at that point. But that's kind of the general gist of what makes up a team. When you're looking at a team, there's 3 primary components that you want to make sure are there. Number 1 is coaching, training, and education. What are their systems for that? How do they schedule for that? And, you know, so all teams are going to approach that a little differently. And you want to make sure to know what that system is and how they're going to implement it, so you know how you're going to learn and how you're going to grow in this business. Just like I just mentioned, all that administrative support, you know, you want to make sure that you are actually reaping the benefits of that as well. So that's an important piece to the puzzle as well. And then 3, leads. And, you know, a lot of people join teams for leads. Now with that, I'll say, you know, not all leads come from the team, but all transactions are split with the team. So when you start out, you know, generally how a team works is they will, you'll sign up with them, and it's usually a 50-50 split for most teams. And, you know, part of your contract is you add your database to their master database, and so they can start marketing to those people immediately. And any deal that you do within the team, whether it's you brought your cousin in that wanted to buy a house, or it was a lead that you got off a cold call or an open house, it's all split 50-50. And they will give you initially means to generate leads like cold calls, door knocking, open houses, things like that. And then over time, as your conversion rate starts to improve, and conversion rate is, you know, if you sat down with 10 potential buyers, how many of those buyers turn into clients? And if only 5 do, your conversion rate is 50%. So when you start getting up above 75%, 80%, that rainmaker might start saying, okay, I can start feeding them some of our paid leads. And anybody can buy leads. You can buy leads from places like Zillow, Market Leader, things like that, but they are expensive. So that's why a rainmaker is going to be picky about who they dole those out to, because they have to pay for them whether they convert them or not. So you need to put in some time, you need to build up your skills to get the opportunity to get those type of leads, because they can be $700 to $800 for one lead for the hot leads. So, you know, you can see why they go about it that way. Additional benefits to a team, there's a social component. And if that's what you have always been, is if you've always worked, you know, in a team, in a group, there is that social component to it, you know. And if you're a solo agent, you know, it can sometimes be a pretty isolating thing. And if you're fine with that, great. And if not, you got to work it out, or you end up, you know, collaborating with people or building out, you know, your small group, but it is nice that it has that social component. It's also a more job-like structure. So if you need structure, if you need someone to really lay out your day-to-day, a team is going to do that for you, because they are going to have, you know, pretty set schedules every day to where you're going to do your script practice, your lead gen, your follow-up, your appointments. And they like to do that stuff together because they want to build that team camaraderie. So that's something that may be attractive to some, and it's something to consider if that's something that you feel you need. So before I jump into the coaching bit, is there any questions on the team portion before we move in to coaching?
Could you go back one slide, please? I was just jotting down some notes, if you don't mind, Dave.
Sure. That one?
Thank you. Yes.
Tell me when you're good.
Good to go. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Alrighty. Yeah. Okay. So coaching, you know, all the offices have, you know, they all have productivity coaching programs, not just the Kirkland office and not just the Keller Williams offices. You'll see that in a lot of different brokerages at different levels. Keller Williams also has what's called MAPS coaching. MAPS coaching is an international coaching where it's a higher level, but it's very expensive, and to get into it, you're paying a monthly fee that is whether you're doing business or not. And so the productivity coaching program, we realize that's not a way that somebody that's getting into this business can go, because, you know, and everything Gary Keller says is to lead with revenue. Don't spend any money till you make some money. And so we'll talk a little bit about how we address that as we go, but yeah, just know there is lots of different types of coaching out there, and I'm going to talk a little bit about ours. And, you know, what does a coach do? And, you know, just some of the things, the basic things are accountability, you know, direction, education, motivation. And when we first meet with somebody that comes into our program, we'll sit down and do a one-on-one, and we'll talk about goals. We'll talk about, you know, what it's going to take to achieve those goals, what you're looking at as far as lead gen, you know, routes or opportunities. What do you feel is going to be the best way for you to lead gen, or what ways make you uncomfortable? And try to, and we're going to gather all this information, try to put together a plan. And then, you know, if you start straying off that plan, we can, you know, have a chat and say, hey, remember when we talked last month? You know, looks like you're going a little bit off course. You know, do we need to redirect you and you know, kind of figure out, or do we need to reassess and change some of the goals and things that you want to do? And some of that comes with both education, motivation, and motivation is, I mean, whatever route you go, it's something that you need in this business, because we're 100% commission in real estate, and then that's going to come with, especially starting out, really high highs and really low lows. And, you know, you're going to have months where you've got a handful of clients all wanting to do work, and you're going to have months where, you know, it's crickets. You got nobody doing anything. So over time, as you start, you know, building a good business and you start getting referrals and repeat business, everything starts to, the big roller coaster of ups and downs starts to level out a little bit, and everything gets a little more consistent and predictable. And predictable is good in this business. So, you know, look forward to the day when that comes. What we do not do is make someone successful. And you know, I think it's important to point that out, because like in anything, if you don't plug into something, you know, it just doesn't work. It's, you know, it's like the resolution saying, I'm going to get in shape this year. And I joined a gym, and, you know, that's great. And that's exciting, and I wish you the best. But if you don't go to the gym, if you don't actually work out, make a plan, stay to a schedule, none of that's going to matter. It's not going to work. So, you know, we just tell people, you know, signing up to do something is not just going to make it happen, but you do have to plug in. And if you do plug in, you know, that is the difference maker. And it's almost like, you know, we know that in real estate with leads, 70% of business comes from the follow-up. And that's just across the board. And, you know, and so many people, and that's where so many people drop the ball. They talk to somebody, they don't feel the conversation went great. They don't call them back. They don't reach out to them again. 70% of the time, it's the second, third, fourth conversation that actually, that's where the business comes from. And it's the same thing with, you know, plugging in, doing the work. It's the people that, you know, it's okay to, you know, you take a wrong turn on your drive from A to B. That doesn't mean that you know, totally throw the towel in for that whole trip and go back home. No, you redirect and reroute on Google Maps and get back on course and you keep going. It's just a delay. It's just, and that's the same thing with anything. So, you know, we try to make it really clear, just, you know, we'll help you and give you the resources, but you need to do the work and plug in. Just within our coaching program, you know, over the last 10 years, the people that plug in versus the people that don't plug in, you see over 700% more transactions for the people that are plugging in. And it's, you know, it's like over $30,000 of GCI in the first 6 months for those that plug in. So, you know, it's just more proof that shows, you know, that you will get the results if you know, follow the path and do the work. We do a weekly group coaching sessions, depending on the coaching group that you're in. And we have several levels of coaching. We have the launch group, which is new agents through their first 2 transactions. We have the growth group, which is people through their 3rd through 6th transactions. And then we also have a momentum group, which is a higher level group of people doing anywhere from 10 to $35 million a year in volume. And we'll discuss those a little bit more down the line. But our group coaching sessions basically we'll cover all sorts of different subjects, real estate related. And oftentimes, you know, I'll come prepared with topics to cover. But sometimes, you know, in checking in with people at the beginning of the hour, you know, something will come up that we'll get talking on, and that might take up the whole hour. So, you know, it's always open, and we always try to like address what is needed in the now. You know, a lot of the group coaching stuff is a lot of the basics. And then as you move into the growth momentum group, it gets to the more advanced stuff. But that's a great place also to start to get to know some of the other people that are in the business, that are your co-agents, that are in the same position at the same place in their business as you. And I think there's a real power to that connection. And I've seen some great collaborations come. I've seen people getting together to work on building out their buyer presentations, their listing presentations, practicing scripts, or going door knocking together, holding open houses together. A little bit of that camaraderie that I was talking about is a real bonus in teams. You can get a little bit of that here as well if you choose to. And I think that's a really, really great thing and a powerful thing. And then we'll do individual coaching. And these sessions will usually, these one-on-one sessions will usually do about once a month. And these are to talk about your business and your goals. It's not to discuss certain transactions or clients. This is more just getting together. Let's see where you're at. Let's see, you know, where are you at compared to where you said you would be, and more just bouncing things back and forth that way. For clients or transactions, we have what are called spot coaching sessions. And if you have something going on with a transaction or client, you can email, text, call, you know, 7 days a week, because we don't want anything to fall through the cracks. We want to make sure that we can, you know, help you as best as we can to give you the support that you need to keep moving things forward. You know, and whether it's talking about an offer or talking about on the listing side, looking at multiple offers or strategizing, you know, how to move things forward or try to close the deal. down to, you know, any of the steps needed from pending to closed. And we, you know, when people do go into contract, we will get them, you know, checklists of things to keep in mind as they work towards close on either both the buyer and the listing side. So 7 days a week, you will have all our information so that we can keep in touch and, you know, keep you moving forward. And we also review all your offers, you know, make sure that everything is as written as it should be, and it's compliant and giving you the best chance of success. Also, mindset strategies. You know, mindset is 80% of this business. It's 80% of any, you know, any business. And it's a hard one. It's sometimes our mindset can be very good, and sometimes our mindset can go not so good, and you can get in your head and get in a bad place, and you know, and you definitely have those moments in this business because, you know, like I said, there are ups and downs, and you know, sometimes we'll see people just putting in the work, and they're just not getting something going, and they're just almost ready to throw in the towel. And then they just stick it out a little bit longer, and then all of a sudden things start to click and things start happening, and multiple, you know, transactions start coming to them. And it's the people that really, you know, stick it out and can keep that mindset from kind of taking them down the self-destructive path, that really get far in this. And we try to help you with that and make sure that you're doing the best you can to keep your mindset in a place that's going to move you forward, you know, successfully and quickly. And then also time management. You know, I mean, gosh, if this is the first time owning your own business, it's a big deal, because if you've always been an employee, you've been told when to check in, when to punch out, when to take lunch, when to take a break. This is when you're going to get paid, and this is exactly how much you're going to make. And I mean, everything was, you know, this is what you're going to work on. Everything was decided for you, and now you decide all that on your own. You're not going to get in trouble if you show up late to work, or you're not going to get in trouble if you just sit at your desk and do nothing. But you also won't get a paycheck. So, you know, trying to help you be efficient with your day. And, you know, initially it's easier when you get started before you start getting active clients, because in the beginning, your time management is all about learning, and it's learning the systems, learning the processes, you know, learning our tech and our different ways of doing things. Then you throw in 2 or 3 clients into that, and now you start getting pulled in every direction, and all that stuff you were learning goes out the window. You're not doing that anymore, and it gets really hectic really fast. So, you know, we try to help you guys to organize that time better, and manage your time as best you can. And then support using KW business models. You know, we are 100% on board with, you know, the business that Gary Keller has built, and then, you know, the business models that you know, he puts forward and believes in, like in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. You know, and to us, it's, you know, we believe that if it's not broke, don't fix it. And sometimes we'll get people come in and they'll have all these grand ideas of completely reinventing the wheel and how they're going to run this real estate business. And that oftentimes, you know, ends in disaster. And we tell people, look, you know, that's great that you have these fantastic ideas, but let's use what works to get you up and running and get you successful. And when you get to that level, then you can start, you know, working on making some of these little changes that in the direction that you would like to try out and see, because then you can afford for, you know, little bumps in the road, because you already have a business that's successful and running well. Whereas, you know, if you're brand new, those bumps in the road become really big, because, you know, you don't have a cushion. And so, you know, we do try to work with you to, you know, to use those business models to, you know, get you successful quickly. And then just know that, you know, anything that is that we have in conversation is always between us. And we think that's important to, make sure that, there's a safe space. If you want to talk about anything that you're struggling with or things you're doing well with, we want to make sure that that's something that we always respect your confidentiality. So then what do we expect from people that are in the coaching program? For a full-time agent, we like people that have the mindset of going into saying that they can get either a listing, a buyer's agreement, or get into contract one per month, one of those per month. Now, we don't hold people's feet to the fire on this, and we're not like going to kick you out of coaching if you don't do it, but we want you to believe that this is possible, because it is. And we want you to come into this with that mentality. Now, you're going to set your own goals, and we'll talk through those and then work on those together, but and those will supersede these. But just out of the gate, we think it's important that, we're getting people into this program that believe this is possible. Now, if you're a part-time agent, if you have another job that you're working full-time and you're trying to slowly build this over time, of course, this number is going to be different, and that's totally okay. And that's where, having your own goals that we'll sit down and set together will be important for you, for everybody. But, so, don't look at this and get discouraged if you're, gosh, I have a full-time job. How am I going to do that? This is not, meant to do that. And I'm just telling you that as a full-time agent, this is 100% within the realm of possibility. And it's good to have that mindset going into it. And then we ask everyone to track their business, to track what they're doing on their day-to-day. And, you find a successful business out there that does not do this, and because I haven't found one yet. Successful businesses know what works and they know what does not work, because they keep track of what they're doing. If you decide, I want to try this type of lead generation, maybe it's open houses. I want to really put some effort into open houses. And if you track those opens, you track the clients met, the follow-up, how many conversations it took, and then what was your conversion rate, how many pieces of business did you get over a several month period, and you tracked all those numbers and you had your results, you could sit there and say, that was really worth it, and I want to double down in the next 3 months because that really paid off. But if you didn't track anything and you were just randomly going out and doing an open here and an open there and didn't really, keep track of what was working and what wasn't, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't be able to say whether it was a great, spend of your time or a waste of your time. And, we need to be able to always pivot in this business, because, something that works today, the market could shift, and that's not going to work tomorrow. And we have to be able to say, okay, we need to pivot and change and do something else. And over time, really know what works best for you and what works best in different types of markets. And so that keeping track of that and having that to refer back to down the road will be a huge help, when those times come, because our market shifts all the time. And, 2020 and until now, it's been a pretty crazy market, but it'll shift soon, I bet. And people are going to have to be able to make a change when that happens. And then open and honest communication with coach and staff. And then this is just, a little bit to what I said earlier, when you have that voice in your head that's ready to throw in the towel. And I'm not saying that any of you will have that, but we see it, we see 80 to 90% of people, not last the first 2 years. And it's always a wonder if some of those people had a conversation with somebody, maybe it's their designated broker, their team leader, their coach, their rainmaker, and just voice their concerns, voice their struggles, that maybe that conversation could have given them a little more of a push to hang in there a little bit longer and then turn it around completely. And we've seen that happen. Every single one of us has blind spots, and sometimes it just takes an outside person, an outside view to kind of look at things and have you look at things a little bit differently. And it can change things, pretty quickly. Biggest thing, I already said this about plugging in, show up for your business, show up for yourself, whatever route you take. This is, I would say more important than anything else that you do in this business. Make a plan to show up for yourself every single day. And whether it's business, both business and personal. And, and I think we talk about goals. Personal goals are as important as your business goals, because without personal goals, you will burn out. You will burn out, and there's just no two ways about it. So you have to have some personal goals, and maybe that's tied to your business goals. Maybe if you hit your quarterly milestone, that means you get, your reward for that is a weekend getaway. And you can make those rewards whatever you want, but I think it's super important. So a couple things that we have in our coaching program. We have a coaching website, and anyone that's in our program has access to this site. And this is just packed with information, from instructional videos to all sorts of scripts, to checklists, to buyer seller resources, transactional documents, quick start documents. Anytime someone asks us a question more than a couple times, we try to put something on here to address that, because we want people to have somewhere they can go 24/7 to most likely get an answer to whatever it is that they have a question to. So, this is kind of something that we put in your toolbox so that you can go to help you with things, whether it's, writing your first offer. There's a whole video on writing your first offer, or inputting your documents into Command, listing presentations, buyer consultations, all that stuff, open houses. We put it in here. We also have what's called the 100-day success plan. And we created this in the beginning of 2020 because people were still saying, I just feel like I'm getting so much stuff dumped on me, and I don't know what I should be focused on right now and what I should be putting off till a little bit later. So we created this 100-day plan, and basically, you get your own personalized link and to your own document here. And as you complete items, you can check them as completed. And each item has links to supporting documents or websites or videos. And and then you'll come back and you'll know it's not done because it says not completed. And if you get stuck on something, you can click need support, and then that'll send me an email saying that you're stuck on, this item, and then I can get in touch with you and figure it out. But it takes about 100 days for a full-time agent. It's going to be a little bit longer for a part-time agent, and that's fine. Again, there's no time limits on anything, but we created it as something that was your first 100 days of business, that these are the most essential things that you're doing and learning to really get up and running in this business. And we have a private Facebook group. This is where we will post a ton of the, anyone that has homes for sale or has pendings, open house opportunities, or people looking for help with, say, sitting an inspection or showing a home. That's all here. We also, those group coaching sessions, we record those, and we also store those on this page so that we have a whole library of coaching sessions in both the launch and the growth group that you can go back and access at any time. And they're all titled with what was covered in that session, so that you can kind of find something that talks about something you might be looking for, wanting to learn about. It's also a great place that people connect. It's like I said earlier, it's that collaboration, that connection, and getting to know other people in the office or even in the other offices. It's a helpful tool. So compensation. What does coaching cost? This is how we do it. For new agents that's anyone with less than 3 closed transactions in a year, it's 25% of your gross commission income for the first 2 transactions. After your first 2 and you move into the growth group, it drops to 15% of your gross commission income for those next 4 transactions. So, you know, I was saying earlier, there's different coaching platforms out there that you have to pay monthly, whether you're doing business or not. And we wanted to do something that didn't cost you a penny out of pocket to get into or get the resources or the training. And you only pay when you're getting paid. And we only get paid when you're getting paid. So we have skin in the game too. We want you to do well. We want you to succeed. So this is how we do it. Now, what happens after the 6th transaction? After the 6th transaction, you've completed the terms of our coaching agreement. Our coaching agreement is for 6 transactions. And at that point, you can choose to do whatever it is you like. You go start a team or be a rock star solo agent, whatever it is you like. We do have a lot of people that choose to stay in coaching, and that's I mentioned to you our momentum group, and that's a higher level group that's more like a high level mastermind. And if you choose to stay in coaching and go to that level, that 15% continues to drop. And, you know, depending on your volume and the speed at which you cap, that will drop substantially. And we see it under 5% for certain agents. So we want people to feel that coaching is better than free. And by that, I mean that the business that you're getting because of it is far exceeding anything that you're putting into it. This is if somebody is coming over sometimes from a different brokerage that has some experience under their belt, they would come in at the 15% for the 6 transactions. And this is kind of a breakdown of, you know, based on a $500,000 purchase, a $15,000 commission, kind of how the pay, your net commissions would look on a team in your first 2 transactions in the launch group or in your next 4 in the growth group. And you guys will get a copy of this. Robin is going to make sure that everyone gets a copy of the coaching agreement and this example in the next couple days. So don't worry, you don't have to jot it down or take screenshots. I'll leave this up for a minute though, but that is all I've got on our coaching program. And I wanted to leave a few minutes here for any questions anyone might have. And on, you know, teams or working with a mentor or going solo. So, you know, does anyone have anything?
Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome. Okay, well, if no one's got anything, I'll let you guys go and it'll give you a few minutes before whatever is next in your guys' packed day. I thank you for your time and I hope, you know, it was informative. And if, again, like I said, I hope it just gives you some information on how you choose to move forward in this business. And whichever way you go, I wish you all the success in the world. And, you know, look forward to meeting you guys one day in the office. Okay. Robin, I'll turn it over to you.
Perfect. Y'all, I look like a sweaty pig because I am. We're doing a big clean out here at the office. So I have been multitasking the whole time. So what we will go ahead and do is give you guys like your official half-hour lunch break. I know we just had a break, but who can't use another one? So we will get going again at 12:30, and then we're going to be talking about some Keller Williams basics, tech systems, that kind of stuff. So you'll be with me at 12:30, and I will see you guys then.
See you later.
Oh, and also oh, never mind. I was going to end it for everybody, but never mind. We're good.
Thank you, Robin.